Yo, yo, yo. What's going on, people? Just another Wednesday here. Another Wednesday on the Hustlers Blueprint. We got my homie Mindset Marlon in the building.
Yo,
Marlon, what's
what's
good,
going
brother?
on? What's going on, bro? Glad to be here.
Dude, I'm glad to have you on. I told Instagram today, I'm like, yo, this is gonna be one of the best episodes we had.
Yo, that's a fact. Yo, matter of fact, are we streaming to IG right now?
I got it on my on just my live. So if you want to pop open your live and maybe put the live to the screen and turn your phone down, Instagram kind of stinks. You
Yo, no,
can't.
Instagram does that to me. Let me see. Oh, there we go. I'm about to pop on your live, bro.
Here's the thing. I think if you do that, it'll be like echoey. You know
Well, check it out. I just turned my volume off.
how is it?
I mean, I don't hear anything. You hear anything?
Here, let me add you to the stream.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on, man. We out here. We doing it proper. See, because
Yeah,
that's the
like
thing.
I
Like,
said,
I'm all about the IG.
I've
I'm all
tried
about the
having
IG.
people on the
The IG
screen
is
on
here.
live. Let's hear it. It's not that bad.
This is how I'm about to solve that. We got feedback or no? We good?
I think we're good. How about now?
I mean, I'm good on my side. I don't hear any feedback.
Cool, bro. Let's leave it at that.
Yo. So what's going on, everybody? I'm over here just talking to my IG for a minute. What's up, y'all? I'm chilling with Mike. Yo,
IG, IG. What's
about to be
going
on the
on, people?
podcast right now.
Hell yeah. Let's introduce Marlon, man. Marlon is my guy. You're one of the first people that I met in our mentorship that I'm thinking about it, that we had like a pretty decent long conversation. Um,
Yo.
so I was super excited. Like I was telling you, I told IG this is gonna be one of the best episodes. So let's get into it. Introduce yourself, bro.
Yo, so what's going on, everybody? I'm Mindset Marlon Johnson, and I'm a entrepreneur. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. I'm a professional parkour athlete turned entrepreneur. So I stepped into real estate a little over 2 years ago after I had spent a lot of time. Hold on, you know what? I'm gonna pause for 2 seconds. Instagram, I'm sorry. I am getting feedback. It's time for me to go. You're just gonna have
It's
to go
all good.
watch it on Mike's. You're just gonna have to go watch it on Facebook. Go follow Mike right now at Mike Gomez.
Love, love.
All right, cool. There
Feedback
we
can be
go.
crazy.
That was a little difficult. I was like hearing everything as feedback. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let me introduce myself. So what's going on, everybody? My name is Marlon Johnson, aka Mindset Marlon. Like I said, I'm a parkour athlete turned entrepreneur. What happened there? Let me really give some people some history because people always ask me how I got into real estate and what brought me into the world of entrepreneurship. And straight up, not a lot of people know this about me. When I was doing parkour, I was doing it as a professional athlete and as a coach. And I ended up working with kids, coaching kids from the ages of like 5 upward of like my oldest students were adults, like 50 years old and plus. And I've had over 1,000 students coaching parkour. Like it was seriously like my passion. I just was deep into that world. And these kids would grow up with me year after year after year. I was doing this for about 8 or 9 years, right? And I don't believe in having fluff conversations. Whenever I talk to people, I always want to, have a real conversation. So including the kids, like I would speak to them and I always just check in with them. Yo, what's going on? How you doing? Yo, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? The answer that I would always get, these kids would always say to me, I want to be a parkour athlete when I grow up. I want to be a professional parkour athlete or I want to be a coach. And I was just like, damn it. Like I literally felt like I was ruining these kids, man. The reason I felt like that was because I was getting to a certain age, I was getting to a certain point in my life where I was starting to want different things, right? I was
Mm.
starting to want to be able to buy things. I was starting to want to be able to start a family. Like there were just these new desires that were coming to me. And the challenge was parkour didn't pay the bills, right? Like it barely covered the bills, especially being where I was from, which was New York, right? And you get it, you live up in Boston, like things are pretty pricey in those areas. right? So I'm like in my mind thinking like, yo, if I get these kids to keep following me down the same path, they're going to eventually get to a point in their lives where ultimately they're looking at two choices. Do I continue to follow my passion, where currently my passion is in an industry that just doesn't have any capital, or do I quit what I'm doing here and go kind of trade it in for a soulless job? Right. And like that was seriously like where I was standing. I was sitting at that like precipice, and I was just like, you know what, I got to figure something out. Because right now, these kids are saying that they want to be a parkour coach and they want to be parkour athletes, not necessarily because that's even fully what they want, but it's more so every day they're having this fun interaction with myself, right?
Yeah.
Where they're just like vibing off of the energy. So I'm like, I'm leading them somewhere right now. I'm like the Pied Piper. I got to do better. I got to be better to lead them somewhere worth going, where at least they can go to a place where I'm like, hey, we're walking through the desert, but here's an oasis. Now, if you choose to follow me back into the desert, at least I gave you a safe place to be before leading you out again. Right. And from that place, you're making a choice. So that started this journey of trying to figure out, what can I do to earn a lot of money and at the same time still feed that desire I had for progression and helping people? Because I didn't want it to be a this or that. It was really important for me that I find a this and that solution. So I need to make a lot of money and I need to get the satisfaction of being a contributor. And I tried a few things, man. Like I tried stocks. I tried.
Let me stop you really quick. Before
Yeah,
you
bro.
go on, how did you grow that parkour community? Like, where did that come from?
Yo, it's funny you ask that because how I grew that parkour community effectively is how I'm trying to grow my real estate and even just like my current brand, which is it grew so organically. Like no joke, Mike. It was me hanging out with my best friends, just training, having fun, genuinely getting lost in our passion. So much so that we were creating this energy, like this energy vortex that we didn't know we were doing it at first, but so many people were pointing it out to us, like, yo, you guys got something. Like, I'm not joking. Like people had to point it out to us. And at some point we literally like had a meeting. We all came together and we were like, yeah, I think we got something special.
That's
Because
crazy.
so enough people keep
So,
telling us that we're doing something special, that there's got to be something here. Like there has to be something here. This many
that
people
is
keep calling
crazy,
us
bro.
out on it.
So
So
you were
essentially,
just with your homies in New York. What, like, actually, a lot of my listeners maybe don't even know what parkour is. So explain what that is.
yeah. So parkour, check this out. Parkour is getting from point A to point B in the most efficient way. Actually, we really can't even say the most efficient way anymore because sometimes we're doing stuff that is just like, bro, it's better to take the staircase. But essentially, it's getting through the environment, overcoming obstacles, jumping, flipping, traversing, scaling. So if anyone's ever seen the movie Casino Royale with James Bond, if they remember the opening scene to that movie where James Bond is chasing the bad guy through the city, it's like a 7-minute long chase scene. All of the movement you see there, that's parkour, right? If anyone's ever watched American Ninja Warrior, the athletes that you see going through the obstacle courses, a lot of them are parkour athletes. So that sort of movement is parkour. Or most people know The Office, right? Like if anyone's ever seen that episode of The Office with Michael Scott, most people, that's their first thought process of what is parkour. So parkour really, it was overcoming obstacles, right? So it was a physical discipline and also a mental discipline, a mental philosophy, which was to overcome obstacles and become strong to be useful.
Nice, dude. So pretty much you guys were out in New York, running around the city doing these things, and you caught people's attention, and just naturally, organically, your community grew because you guys are super dope people.
Yeah, man. I mean, we grew up just from like going out having fun, like seriously, like putting out that energy. When you're having fun, when you're having a good time, that's an attractive energy. Like people naturally want to go and be around the people that are enjoying their lives. And then we were also coaching it, right? So we were actively teaching the next generation of athletes, right? We were actively going out and coaching and mentoring and building them up. So we were building a community. At one point, I do, now that you make me think about this, one point I do remember, talking to a group of like my early students, telling them that the reason I'm training you all is because right now there's not enough people for me to go hang out with and like go jump around and do this cool stuff with. So I need to train you guys so you can get good enough that I want to hang out with you afterwards.
That's fire.
Dude,
That's
like
fire. Bro, that's almost like what Pace has done with this community. Like, yo, I want to grow a bunch of people into good real estate entrepreneurs so we can do deals together.
it's the same concept. It's literally like it's exactly what Pace is doing because Pace has a passion for it. So it's like his passion, like he can't help but like have that fire. And the last thing you want to do is have a fire by yourself. Right? Like how lame is having a campfire and you're the only one around it with marshmallows? Like campfire is way more fun when you got your homies around it.
Yeah, bro. I've been feeling that this week. One of my partners is on vacation, and I'm just talking to sellers, doing all the things in the business, like by myself. I feel mad lonely. So, but having a community around you while you're doing business and while you're doing deals it makes it all the better.
Way better. It's such a difference. You know, like we call it the campfire effect. And like it's no joke. Like, you know, I used to view it as a weakness. So this is why I'm so big on mindset, right? Because mindset matters. Mindset, the way you think about things is going to ultimately affect your action. It's going to ultimately affect how you show up to even take the action. And I used to think it was a weakness to, you know, rely on people to have people around. And I think there is a strength. I know there's a strength to self-discipline, right? However, again, I don't believe life is ever a this or that situation. It could be a this and that, where sometimes your self-discipline means, hey, I know I like to do this with people and people aren't around. So I'm going to pick myself up and either go and put myself where those people are, or I'm actively going to build the community of people that I want or desire in order to move forward.
Or both.
Or both. Exactly.
Hell yeah, bro. So you went from doing parkour. How'd you get into real estate?
Yeah, man. So as I start to realize, all right, I got to figure out something better because these kids are actually looking up to me. Like I've become a mentor, a role model for them. I need to go figure something out. I start trying a few things, try stocks. That was cool. I was doing options for a little bit. And, you know, ultimately, the only reason I stopped was I went away for a summer where I lost internet for 3 months. So when I came back, I was a blank slate again. And I came across, I think it was a Max Maxwell video. I think it was either Matt, it was one of the YouTube gurus. Somebody like introduced this idea of like real estate investing, wholesaling to me. And I started getting into it. And actually, the girl I was dating at the time, I started to show her, like, hey, look, I think we could do this real estate thing. And she says to me, you know, you don't know those people on the internet. Like, you don't know if what they're saying is legit. You know, it's like she was a little not trusting of it. However, one of the Robert Kiyosaki seminars came through the town where it's like, hey, Robert Kiyosaki is going to be teaching real estate at the Marriott Hotel this Saturday. Come for your free class. Like we all know that one, right? Where you show up and it's some dude that's not Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah,
You know, like,
that's so funny. I had the same experience.
yeah, bro. Like they use Robert Kiyosaki's poster to get you in the room, and then some dude named James shows up, and you're like, who the hell are you?
You're like,
So,
you look different in the book.
yeah, man. Yeah, I had this dude named James, and he came through to a room, and she was actually the one that got us the tickets for it because she was like, "Look, this is at least a legitimate company. Let's go see what they have to say." No worries. So we go out to it, and this dude James starts talking, man. And for about 3 hours, my mind is just being blown, and I'm just like, "Whoa," because I'm sitting there trying to figure out. I know that they're gonna try and sell me something. So my guard is up the whole time. And I'm trying to figure out where's the scam? How am I like, how are you trying to separate me from my money? And at the end of it, I'm just like, yo, I've been waiting for your like my BS radar to go off. It never went off. Right. Like I was like, he's telling me the truth. He's a little aggressive in the way he talks, but he's speaking the truth. And I started to get a little upset because I never heard this before. I never learned this before. And it wasn't like the information that I was receiving was something that was past my ability to understand. Right? Like I could understand like if you start teaching me something new, but like maybe I'm not intelligent enough to comprehend it. And that's why I didn't learn it. But this was basic information that was just never spoken to me. And so now I was like, I need to figure out what else I don't know. So I signed up for real estate education, man. I went to the back of that room. I paid for some education, and that's where my real estate journey started.
Hell yeah, bro. So what that was one of Robert Kiyosaki's one of his mentorships.
Yeah, man. Name of that mentorship group was Elite Legacy. So some people have a love-hate relationship with that company, right? Some people absolutely love it. Some people absolutely hate it because they were expensive, man. Like it's like the fortune builders, right? They charged a pretty penny for their education. I'll be honest, I dropped a pretty penny for that education. I dropped close to $25,000 getting educated in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, I get a lot of people always ask, like, how do you feel about that? And I always tell them the same thing. I appreciate that. I appreciate that they actually charged me that much. You know why? They forced me to make a decision. They forced me to make a commitment. They forced me to put my money where my mouth was. Because when I forked over that money, it hurt. It hurt in a real way. Where I was like, yo, I don't have this kind of money to be thrown out like this. So if I'm going to do this, I'm seeing it all the way through to the end, no matter what happens. No matter what.
Yeah,
and that's something that money can't buy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's super important. I was talking to one of my homies about getting a business coach, and he's like, I think that you could just do it on your own. Like, why do you got to pay some dude some money to tell you how to run your business? I'm like, one, they have the blueprint, but what you just said hits it on the note. Like, once you go hire that coach, even if they suck, you got to go make it happen. You just spent 25 grand. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm going to go spend 25 grand and not go make some money. I got to go make my money back. I got to figure out, even if his mentorship sucks, I got to figure out some way to pull my 25 grand back out of his mentorship.
It's the truth. It's the truth. We put ourselves in a situation where it's like, now it's do or die. It's like, I'm going to make it work or I'm going to make it work.
Right.
So that was essentially how I got my start. And I still say to this day that the education I received from them was actually a top-notch education. Like, it really, so I was a straight A student growing up. So formal education wasn't like a challenge for me. And I actually learned really well in the formal education space of like having information in a chronological order, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And the way they presented their information, they did it very much like that. Whereas I've been a part of other mentors like Pace. Pace is fantastic. However, you're not necessarily going to get like you're going to get Pace wherever he's at in life currently, which is amazing because then you learn some deep in the weeds stuff. However, if someone's brand new, they might get a little lost in the sauce without like that first foundation. Whereas this education program gave such a level foundation that has been able to help me with everything else. So that was the start of real estate.
Nice, bro. And then you took off from there. What did you do after you got in the mentorship? Like, what did it look like when you were in the mentorship?
Bro, so when I got started, this was October of 2019, right? October 2019, getting into real estate. Dude, I start getting educated, start figuring out, all right, let me start taking action. I'm down in New York. And like anyone else, like we just pick up the phone, we start calling, right? When I start calling, guess what happens? The world shuts down, bro. COVID happens. New York shut down in such a major way where like I'm talking like butt cheeks were squeezed up, like people were not leaving home, like it was nothing was happening, but I didn't know that yet. So I'm over here just calling people. Bro, I am talking about getting cursed out for about 6 months straight. How dare you call in the middle of a pandemic? You're just trying to steal houses. What the hell's wrong with you? Just getting so much to the point where I actually was going on Instagram every day and just tracking my progress based on how many times I was told F you. That's how people started to find out I was doing real estate because I was just tracking like, hey, today I made this many calls and I got told F you this many times. So I was going at it, banging my head against the wall, trying to break into the New York market, and I wasn't having any success. I was having no success. I was starting to like feel defeated. The world was shut down, so I wasn't seeing people, like I wasn't seeing friends. I literally like was at home every day calling, just making cold calls. I had no one to check in and plug into to even find out if what I was doing was correct. So it was honestly, it was tough. It was really tough. However, I did have one buddy. I had a guy by the name of Kurt Walker. I met him right before the world shut down. I met him at a RIA, my very first RIA I ever went to. And when we went to that RIA, at a RIA where if a lot of people aren't sure what this is, most people should know what a RIA is if they're listening to this podcast. But a RIA is essentially a meetup for real estate investors, like a local place for them to come, share knowledge, share information, share deals, share tips and tricks. And at my very first RIA, they did a thing where everybody stands up, says who they are and what they do. So, of course, you see the first few people. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm a wholesaler. Hey, I'm Joe. I'm a wholesaler. Hey, I'm Nick. I'm a wholesaler. So I started to catch on real quickly that, the people that look new all say they're wholesalers. And I'm starting to realize wholesalers, I don't think, know too much. At least this is what I'm figuring out at this meetup, because everyone's just saying I'm a wholesaler and no one has anything to say after that. So I'm like, I don't think wholesalers know too much. And then this other guy stands up, Kurt, and he says, hey, I'm Kurt. I have 6 student rentals in Albany. I've got a handful of properties up here in Milwaukee. I've got some flips going on. Currently, we're looking for this, this, and this. So he actually had an answer. So immediately when he sits back down, I'm making a mental note of this is who I'm going to go talk to. So when everything gets quiet, I stand up. I'm like, I'm going to go make a beeline to him before like he gets surrounded and crowded. You know what I see? Mike, I look over. All the wholesalers are like in a circle, bunched together, talking to each other. And I'm like, none of you guys know anything. Why are you all talking to each other? Like,
No shit.
like this was like my thought process. So I'm just like, all right, I'm going over to Kurt. Like, and I start talking to him and I tell him straight up, like, hey, listen, man, I'm brand new. You're the only person that had anything of substance to say inside here. And I really don't know what I'm doing yet. So I would love to take you out to lunch. And I just want to pick your brain a little bit. Really, I just need to be pointed in the right direction because I just have no clue what I'm doing right now. But I'm ready to learn. And he's like, yeah, lets me take him out to lunch. I pick his brain, gives me a ton of value. And he says to me, listen, man, like I live down here in New York with you, but I invest out of state. I do all my investing out of state.
You're like,
And he
what?
planted that bug in my ear. He said, listen, man, like you can look at investing virtually out of state. So I said, no, man, thanks for the knowledge. I'm going to go make it work in New York. Straight up, I just told him no. I was just like, no, I'm going to go make it work in New York, man. I want those big, fat New York checks. So once a month, he would call, check in on me. And, he'd just like, hey, how's progress? And I'll tell him like what's going on. Like, hey, this is happening. This is happening. Hey, we almost had a thing. But nothing concrete ever happened. So by the time I got to about like month 4 or 5, this is around the time I start to find Pace Morby. I start to find Sub 2. And I start to figure out creative financing. And when he calls me and checks in, I'm just so excited. I'm telling him all about creative financing. Like, man, like I just figured out creative financing. I understand how to structure these deals, this, and this. And he's like, whoa, man, you actually really understand this stuff. He's like, I've done a Sub 2 deal, but like you understand it even better than I do. And he's like, listen, man, like with what I'm telling you right now, if you came into the Milwaukee market, you would absolutely crush it. He's like, these wholesalers up here don't know that stuff. Like you would dominate this market. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of getting cursed out. I'm tired of being yelled at in New York. That night I downloaded a list, right? I pulled up like a pre-foreclosure list, I think in Milwaukee, or it was expired listings.
Mm-hmm.
Very first phone call I make, Mike. Very first phone call I make. This woman picks up the phone, starts telling me all the details about the house, is having a conversation with me, not cursing me out. Now, this conversation didn't turn into a deal, but it was the very first conversation I had where I wasn't getting cursed out. And I'm talking the very first conversation in 6 months, dude.
Bro, you're going to make me go virtual. Think about I just do Massachusetts. I'm actually just in Massachusetts. And it's probably even harder out here as far as assholes that you talk to.
I bet.
And I say it all the time. I've never really went virtual. We dipped into Florida a little bit, didn't do any deals, just marketed for like a week or so. Um, but the sellers that I would talk to are the same way that you're talking about. They're willing to just give up the sauce like right away. Up here, it's like pulling teeth. Granted, like you have to be a really good salesperson up here to close deals.
Yo,
Honestly, and when I talked to sellers from another market, I was like, "Yo, this is a whole different vibe." Off the rip, off like the first seller that I talked to, I remember the first virtual seller that somebody from Sub Two brought to me was like I think they were in Ohio or something like that. I legit closed them in like 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Wait, hold on. Why was that so easy?"
yo,
It's super nuts, but what you're saying right now might make me go dip into another market like heavily.
bro. Honestly, if you have the marketing channel, because like that's the thing, and this is like when it occurred to me, and because you don't know what you don't know. I was thinking everything was one way because I had only been in one place to gain experience. So I had no reference point. So that phone call made me realize, holy crap, different markets have different mindsets. Like the people in different markets respond day and night different. And that's something like anyone who hasn't gone virtual, they just won't understand that. Right? Like if you call in the South, it's going to be a totally different conversation than if you call in the Northeast, or if you talk to somebody in Vegas, or if you talk to somebody in California. Right? It's just going to be a day and night different conversation. The sellers might be more intelligent, they might be less intelligent. The sellers might be more open to these sort of conversations, even certain deal structuring. Right? Like if you start calling people in New Jersey and you start talking to them about sub two, what you're going to hear them say is like, "Oh, like a lease option?" For
Yeah,
whatever reason, the Jersey market is very familiar with lease options, right? So sometime in their history, there must have been a lot of lease options happening, right? But
yeah,
if you go into Milwaukee and you start talking about subject to, they're going to say, "Oh, like a land contract?" So a lot of people were doing land, and you start to realize like each marketplace has its own history and it has its own vibe. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." So I started going into the Milwaukee market. Was able to get within being in the Milwaukee market. I think it took me about 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks to get my first deal, which was it was two houses in one. It was one was a sub two. I took over the seller's mortgage, and the other was a straight cash deal. Um, and from there, I had proof of concept. From there, I was like, oh my gosh, this
that was your first
actually
deal.
works. It took forever to get me here, but so for me, that was 8 months in from the time I had started to the time
And
I
that
got
was
that
your
first
first
deal.
deal ever.
That was my first deal ever,
Wow.
and it was life changing, man. Like it, the crazy part too was like it wasn't even the amount. So I got $4,500 from that one, from that deal, right? So it's not life changing money, but at the same time, it was because it was proof of concept. It was this real estate stuff is real. This actually does work. And once I realized that, I said, you know what? Let's keep going. Let's keep making this happen. And I continued to wholesale. Did a handful more deals in the Milwaukee market, and that's as I started to plug in with sub two students. Started doing JV deals in different states and different nations, and as I started to get a few more deals under my belt, I started to want to hold on to deals, right? Because at some point, what happened, I had the moment where I sold a deal that I had on the contract for $15,000, sold it for 25, and it was a cash flowing rental, and it was renting at $700 a month, which nothing special. But then I started to really think about it. I was like, wait a second. I had a property that I could have purchased for $15,000 that was renting out at $700 a month. And I started to calculate like what the cash on cash return would have been. And I started to realize, wait a second, this thing would have paid for itself in 4 years. And then I would have had all my money back out of that. And that's if I used my own cash. This was a no brainer. Why did I not lock that property up? And my brain started to shift. And I started to think, how can I keep these properties? Because I was also just getting tired of doing the whole hustle, right? Like
Yeah,
find a deal, sell a deal, go look for a new deal, right? I wanted to find a deal, keep the deal, and continue to get paid from a deal.
yeah. Hell yeah, bro. I was saying that to one of my homies yesterday. I'm like, we're in a phase in our business right now where you were in the beginning. We're just building the beast, building the beast so that deals are consistently coming in. Once we hit a milestone where we're at a consistent basis, at a consistent number that we're trying to hit, that's when that mindset switches to, all right, let's start being an actual investor and buy deals. So I think milestones is where that hits. That's why everybody starts with wholesaling because it's proof of concept. You get some money in the door, you start building the beast, and all of a sudden you're like Marlon. You're like, hold on, I got to keep hustling and bustling for deals. Let me start keeping some of these. So I love that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll say something, right? Because this is how it's right. So this is why my name is Mindset Marlon, right? Because it really was a mindset. What was really interesting, like when I mentally thought for the first time, like, oh my gosh, I should have kept that deal. And then I started asking that question of how can I keep a deal? Because I still didn't know, right? Like I still wasn't making these big fat checks. Like my wholesale assignments on average in the Milwaukee market were anywhere from like $6,000 to $8,000, right? And I also started to realize like, the Milwaukee market's cool, but like being able to go into different markets to make bigger assignments is going to be cooler. Because when I made a $10,000 assignment in Milwaukee, everybody was congratulating me like I had done the biggest assignment of the year. And I was like, I think I'm in the wrong market. Right, just but like again, like it
That's
was.
two extremes, right? New York and Milwaukee.
Oh my gosh, man! Like New York, like they would look at me like a $10,000 assignment, dude. That's the E and
Right.
D that you put down for a wholesale deal. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
assignment, So just different worlds. But we were able to do a little bit more volume with. I had very little overhead. I think my expenses were maybe 1,000, anywhere from 1,000 to $1,500 per month. So extremely low overhead. So I had high margins, which was nice. Um, but once I started asking, how can I keep the deals? What was really interesting was mind actually started to come up with just totally new options. Like my brain switched into a new gear that I didn't even realize existed. And I like I liked it, man. Like it started to make me ask the question of where am I going to get the money? Right? How can I raise the money? And a whole new world in the real estate industry just started to open up for me. But it only came after I asked that question.
So how did that question come up?
It came up, like I said, it came up after selling that deal, after like really selling that deal and sitting back and relaxing and thinking about what else could I have done with that deal? Because I never thought about multiple options. I'd only thought about the one option of like, hey, can I wholesale this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hey, because you know what it was? Especially after I wholesaled it, my first buyer said no to it. Right? He was just like, absolutely not, don't want to buy it. And then another buyer came in and said yes to it and said yes to it for $10,000. So in my mind, I was like, what is he seeing that my other buyer is saying no to? Like, why did one buyer like quickly jump on it, no problem, and the other buyer said like, absolutely not, it's not a deal, right? So then I started to wonder like, how is he analyzing the deal? And I was like, he's analyzing the deal from a cash flow standpoint. He's
Yeah.
analyzing the deal from rental income. Whereas my other buyer was just looking at it like, nah, like he was analyzing the deal for based on being in the area. He wanted having a certain amount of equity. And I realized this buyer didn't really care about the equity. He cared about the cash flow. So from that point, I started to wonder like, hey, where's my cash flow at? That's originally what I wanted out of real estate. I didn't necessarily want to be a wholesaler. I wanted cash flow. I still want cash flow.
Yeah.
So wholesaling was supposed to be a means to an end.
Mm-hmm. Love
So
that.
that
Those are
mental
mindsets.
shift had to happen
Multiple mindset switches.
a lot.
And is that kind of why you're trying to brand yourself as Mindset Marlon? Because of all these mindset switches that you had to get to the point that you're at right now?
Yeah, man. So I mean, honestly, the mindset Marlon came from it's my passion. Like if you talk to me about something like I'm gonna want to talk about mindset. I'm gonna want to talk about like what's going on, like what you're thinking, what you're going through, how you processing information, how you processing your situations, how you processing your opportunities. Because for me personally, it's an ongoing conversation I have to have with myself, right? Because there's so many times where we want to like entrepreneurship is tough. Like entrepreneurship, like will kick you in the face. So it's just like if you're not able to build yourself back up, then you're not going to be able to get through it. And building yourself up, it's an inside out game. Like it all starts on the inside first. So everything that we do, it literally, I believe, it comes with a thought first, right? You got to build a new habit, you got to build a new discipline, you got to learn a new skill set. It starts internally first, right? Because change is following the same 3-step process, right? Change always in the beginning is hard, right? And then in the middle, it's messy. And then finally, at the end, it becomes people, right? Because now you've got it dialed in. But if you don't have the proper mindset, you're not going to make it through the first 2 steps. You just won't. Like most people were going to stop, right? And like I know because I've stopped. Like in other areas of my life, I've gone to the middle part and I've stopped. I allowed myself to fail. And when I recognize and I look back at why did I fail? What was it that held me back? What was it that prevented me from moving forward? Right? It was I gave up mentally. It was I internally gave up. So I my mindset on to remind myself we don't give up. Right? Like it's a mental game. In fact, the times that are the toughest, like today, I also had a tough day, man. Like today was straight up like every fire that could pop up was popping up. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's go put on our fire boots. Let's go put on our fire pants and go put out some fires. Right? Like we got deals need to get funded. Like we found some last minute funding for these deals, which is amazing. Right? I still got another deal that needs to get funded. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go find that funding for it. Right? Building out the new relationships, getting things in order that should have been in order. Like, hey, it's mindset.
Mm-hmm. So how would you teach somebody how to get into that mindset of analyzing yourself?
Yeah, man, great question. So essentially it's 2 things, right? It's having the first basic awareness that your thoughts matter, right? Like actually having the conversation around it because we all we at some level know it, but maybe we were never like formally taught it or presented that information. Right. So I actually every single day I do something called morning mindset coffee, right? Where it's a group of entrepreneurs that come together for the purpose of working on their mind. Right. So we all come together and each day we're either sitting and we're reading a book together. So it's almost like a live book club. Or this morning, for example, I had an audio. I was like, yo, let's listen to this audio. While you're listening to it, I want you to take notes and tell me what stands out to you the most. So we're going to take notes on it and we're going to have an open discussion based off of what we're figuring out here. Right. And we're going to actually dive into this information. Right. So we expose each other to higher ways of thinking, to better ways of thinking. Because if you know, so this is one thing, man, I can't like not talk about this. Robert Kiyosaki, right? We all know that guy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He did a phenomenal book. The reason so many entrepreneurs, especially real estate investors, credit him to their start is because of that book that he put out, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in that book, it had one extremely crucial concept that sticks with people no matter what, whether they read his book or not. And it's the cash flow quadrant. Right? Are you familiar with the cash flow quadrant?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you know how essentially we have the left side and the right side, right? We have E's and S's on the left side, and we have B's and I's on the right side. And for anyone that doesn't know, a E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed, B stands for business, I stands for investor. Now, when we look at the difference between them, we start to realize the difference is not necessarily what they're doing on the external, but the internal way of thinking. Right? Like the difference between the people on the left side and the right side is purely how they think. Right? So on the E, we have individuals that look at time and they believe time is money. Right? Like that's what we're taught. Time is money. Time is money. We're told that our entire lives. Right? Time's not money. Time is way more valuable than money. Infinitely more valuable than money. However, on the left side, we're taught time is money. So this is where you find your 9-to-5ers who trade their time for money. They physically have to put the time in to extract the money. And they're usually selling their time at wholesale. Right? They're selling their time at a wholesale rate. So the right-hand side recognizes value is money.
Wait, hold on. That is good. employees are selling their time at a wholesale rate.
Think about it. Think about it. Like, as an employer, right, you know this, right? From hiring individuals, you buy their time at wholesale, you resell it at retail because you're having them do work and you're able to capitalize on it. So you
Wow,
buy their
I never
time
thought of
at
that.
wholesale, resell it at retail.
Damn, that's good. That's
Like,
really good.
it's what happens, right? And again, it's a mindset, right? Because they're actively selling it. Because if you don't buy it, guess what? They're just going to go take it and sell it to somebody else. Because there's that mental association. So we have to be taught. We have to be shown that time's not money, right? On the left-hand side, you have people that they look at a new challenge, a new opportunity, and they see it and they're scared. They think, I don't think it could do that. They think of everything that could go wrong. On the right side, they think about everything that could go right. They focus on winning, right? Like, you ever heard the saying, winners focus on winning? Right? On the left-hand side, these are the people that play life on defense, right? Like, they've got an amazing defense. They play the game of life on defense. On the right-hand side, they play the game on offense. If you're playing on defense, cool, no one's going to score on you, but you're also not going to score. When you play on offense, you can actually start getting some points on the board. So the way I go about teaching mindset, starting to teach mindset, is starting to introduce people to these concepts, right? And just like anything else, just like physical exercise, it's a daily repetition that has to happen, right? Like, you and I wouldn't go to the gym, go get a crazy tough workout in, like have the best workout we ever had in our lives, and then say, cool, we're good. We never need to do that again, right? That'd be ridiculous, right? Like, that workout is good. However, it wouldn't sustain us for the rest of our lives. We'd have to come back and revisit the gym. So it's the same thing with our mentality. Same thing with the mindset.
Yeah. Do you think people have a timing with this type of stuff? Like, are they ready at some point in their lives to accept that type of stuff? Or do you think it's something that Marlon could legitimately go to somebody's house and start teaching them some mindset stuff and their life will start changing?
Yeah, I know for a fact I can go to anybody at pretty much any point in time and start teaching them and get their mindset to shift. The reason being is it's simple, actually. And I learned this, and this is why, like, I'm so grateful to the parkour and the kids that I worked with. They're the ones that actually taught me how to teach and how to coach. Because what's interesting is when you work with so many different people, because again, I had over 1,000 students, and what you start to realize is they're all capable of learning. However, they all learn in their own way. So every person is capable of learning. However, most times teachers won't actually adapt to the student's way of learning. The teacher will instead say, this is how I teach. So you need to figure out how to learn the way I teach, which is fine, I guess. I mean, I think it's kind of stupid, but I think that makes you a bad teacher, to be honest. Like, you are only able to speak it in one way. That's not very useful because it doesn't serve as many people. So what I had to learn how to do from my time as coaching was I had to learn how to say the same thing a million different ways, which actually translated to sales pretty well because it helps me when it comes to making analogies and making stories. Because you relearn, and you know this from being a salesman, right? You know that when you talk to sellers, sometimes you have to explain the same, like you're explaining creative finance options, but you're breaking it down in a very simple way, and you're retelling the same thing 5 different ways so that they can understand it. So I do the same thing when it comes to mindset. When I meet somebody, I take some time to just listen to them, figure out where they're coming from, figure out what language they are speaking, and collaborate, like not collaborate, but calibrate my thinking to how they already see the world. And then I simply present new ideas to them with the same language that they already use.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Because even for me, like, my mindset will change all the time. A light bulb is always going off in my head, a new light bulb, right? And I have a whole different mindset switch. Like, the person that I was 2 months ago is not the same person that I am today, nor will it be in 2 months. I end up getting around different people that kind of cause my mindset to change like that. I get around a different environment, different person, or the same person that I've been hanging around has another idea or an idea I never heard of or something like that. And that's what switches my mind. So I guess is it a timing thing too? Is it a timing thing where is there a point where in somebody's life they're willing to accept that new mindset thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Or
no,
do
it
you
makes
think
perfect sense. So, from what I've seen, right, I see two things that happen. People tend to change for one of two reasons: inspiration or desperation, right?
Mhm.
You're either inspired to, like if I'm a little kid and I'm watching, Kobe on TV, I might get crazy inspired and I'm saying, I'm going to go play basketball. I see LeBron, I'm going to be like LeBron, right? I see Grant Cardone, I'm going to go build an empire, right? Whoever it is, they may inspire us. Or we might be on the complete opposite end of the spectrum where life sucks so much
Damn.
that we are just in a totally desperate place of
Mhm.
I I got to figure this out because I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. So one of the two has to give. See, here's the crazy part. The middle is the scariest part, right? Like that in between zone, like that being lukewarm. And like I know because you're looking at someone that used to sit very lukewarm. I used to sit in the neutral zone all day long, in the comfort zone all day long, not wanting to rock the boat. See, the challenge with that is that's such a stagnant life. Like, I'd rather be on fire or freezing cold than to be lukewarm. Because from lukewarm, you don't get anything. Nothing happens, nothing changes at lukewarm.
Mhm.
So, some people, I would say the people that struggle to change are the ones that are in that lukewarm position. However, if you turn the mirror on them, they'll start to see it. They'll start to see that they actually hate the discomfort of being comfortable.
So you have to somehow take their situation that they're in right now and show to them that they need some inspiration to get out of that situation or that they're desperate because that situation sucks.
Essentially, yeah. And so what I found was, right, like the best way to do it is interesting, right? I've learned that you can't change people who don't want to be changed yet. However, what you simply do is it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, where it's like me and my buddies, we were just like having a good time. It becomes an attractive force, right? You go out and you worry about changing yourself. And
Mhm.
as you begin to do that, the people that are interested, they find a way to come to you. They literally find a way to raise their hand. And you'll notice it. You'll see it, right? They'll reach out, they'll DM you, they'll give you a phone call, or you'll bump into them. And when you start talking, you'll see that they're really engaged, right? When I'm talking to somebody and like they're totally unengaged, I'm just like, all right, you're totally on the left side right now. Your mind isn't yet ready to begin growing, right? Like
Mm.
you're not interested in the growth for yourself yet. You're still caught in that trap of comfortability, and it doesn't hurt you enough yet because being comfortable, it's like this. It's like a little tap, right? It's not annoying yet. It just started. But as it goes on for a while, then it starts to get really annoying. And then it's like, it's not killing me, but it's just like, yo, could you stop this? And that's what, like, when people start to get frustrated with this, that's when they're ready to start making some change.
So is it a timing thing? I guess that's when, like for me personally, it's very easy for me to get inspired because I've came from not having much, right? To looking at something and being inspired from that. So it's easy for me to look at, people out here doing the business at a high level and get inspired from that and want to do what they're trying to do. But for somebody like you're saying that's just in the middle, that's just hanging out, do you think it takes some timing for them to realize that? Like, how do they realize that? Like I just said, if you went to some dude's house that was in that middle range and you're like, yo, you don't see that your life stinks. Like, how do you get them to realize that?
Yo, exposure.
Hmm.
Exposure. They don't know what they don't know. So I would straight up, like, instead of coming to them and like preaching to them, I would come to them and give them an opportunity. Like, yo, come hang out with me. yo, let's go do what I want to do for a day. Like, I'll do what you want to do for a day. Like, you want to sit here and hang out on the couch all day? Cool, I'll hang out with you for a day. But tomorrow, you got to do what I want to do. And then when you give them that exposure, you now have given them the opportunity. Like, you've opened their eyes where if they still want to go back to what they were doing beforehand, fine. But what you did plant the seed. So some people, the seed literally just never been planted. Right? Like the seed just has, like, if no one ever spoke to us about real estate investing, we might not know that you can go out and buy houses, no money down. Right. And I think about the first time you tell somebody that, they're usually like in a place of disbelief, but now you've planted the seed. Now it's on their radar. Now it has an awareness. Now it can start to take root. Then it'll take time, but the more exposure is going to speed up and basically compress that time. So if someone were lukewarm and in the middle and like, you're like, yo, how do I get this person to change? I would be all about like, hey, how do we get them more exposure to this other way? Because right now we're asking them to see something that they've never seen before. We're asking them to see something that they don't even know exists. It's like asking them to see something that's invisible to them. Like they're colorblind and you're asking them to see color. So we got to get them some exposure to it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So now we got that down, somebody in the middle. How about somebody that gets super inspired, super easy? How do you get them to go even further?
Discipline. So that's, this is the crazy part. This is the tough part, right? Where, all right, so for the folks that get like crazy inspired, right? Where it's just like, yo, man, that's a good opportunity. That's a good opportunity. That's a good opportunity. We see a lot of opportunities. Now, this is the challenge. And this is something that all of us work on. All of us have to work on this, which is, okay, I see all the opportunities, but where is it best for me to put my focus and my energy? And then, so I learned this actually from Pace. I learned this the other night. We're having this conversation the other night where we're sitting at dinner and he referred to it as the fuck it bucket, right? And he says essentially, let's imagine I have this cup right here, right? And this cup is my main thing, right? This is my superpower, right? So for him, this is like his wholesale acquisitions business, right? This is him talking to sellers. This is like what he knows he's really good at. This is where he can focus his energy. He's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on filling this cup up, right? And this is me putting my work in every day. This is me showing up, putting in my work, putting in my time, putting in my energy. It's to fill this cup up, right? And as this cup starts to get filled up, what most people do is they realize the cup is filled. They chug it all the way down. They're nice and full. They sit back, they relax. And then when they start to get thirsty again, they realize they have to fill it up, right? So they just fill, drink, fill, drink, fill, drink, fill, drink. Instead, he says, how do I fill this cup up and actually get it to the point where it's over pouring, right? And as it pours over, how do I put another cup beneath it to capture it, right? I want the other cup to capture it. And that other cup that captures it, I want that to be like my investments, right? So now that these cups that are capturing it, the purpose of these cups is that when they get a little bit of water, they somehow figure out a way to use that water and self-recycle, and it spits out more water. So you put a little bit of water in, you put one drop in, somehow 2 drops come out. He's like, so I'm going to actively work on just focusing on this well and letting it fill my other cups. And my other cups are my investment cups. And then as my investment cups start to fill to the point that they pour out, I need another cup behind it. And the cup that gets the cup that captures that, that's my cup that lets me do whatever the hell I want. Right? So I work hard to fill up this well. This well fills up my investment well. My investment well fills up my fuck it bucket.
Damn.
And I was just like, whoa.
Holy
okay.
shit.
So it all comes
Each
back
cup is
down
different.
to
Each
where's
cup
his
has a
focus?
different.
Right.
Yeah, each cup has a different title.
Each cup has a different title. And then what cup is he actively focused on? So now he might have 40 cups at the table, but which cup is he focused on?
The one that got him.
He's only focused on this one cup because this is the one cup that fills the other cups, right? Because now as this one fills the investment cup, instead of letting the investment cup pour over into his fuck it bucket, he might say, you know what? I want my investment cup to pour over into another investment cup while I'm still only just focused on this cup. So he creates a system around only having to focus on one thing, and everything else stems off of the one thing. And now this was the interesting part that he said to actually, he actually broke this down. He said, You know when you're really going to start being successful? It says when you figure out what you actually want to do and you do that one thing. Right? Figure out what you actually want to do and go do that. And I was like, So to your question, like how to take it to the next level, that's the answer. At least that's the answer that I've been given. And that's the answer that I've been applying. And I see traction when I begin to do that, when I begin to chase after the things that I actually enjoy doing. Right. Like, for example, I like talking, I like mindset, I like my podcast, like those areas that I get energy when I do those things. Like being on this episode right now with you, having this kind of conversation, this feeds me energy all day long. I can literally do this all day long, even if I'm tired. You know, so
same with me, bro. I'm like sort of in that direction right now. Before, I used to absolutely love talking to sellers, and I mean, I still kind of do to a point. But now it's like I only want to talk to people that I need to be talking to. I don't want to talk to somebody that I'm going to have to follow up with, next week or in a month. If I'm talking to you, then we're either doing a deal or we're not. Those are the conversations that I like. But I used to enjoy the other conversations too, the follow-ups.
Yep.
Now I don't like it. I'm like, I don't want to have those conversations. I'd rather bring my time to something like this.
And that's the thing. We progress. And this is why, again, now this comes back. This is so funny how these things come back full circle, right? This comes back to exactly what Kiyosaki spoke about and what he taught. So on the left-hand side, it's very much like, hey, you got to do things for yourself. On the right-hand side, it's all about systems, right? Like the difference between a lot of people look at the S and the B and think they're the same thing, self-employed or small business owner and business. But the difference is that self-employed individual hasn't created the proper systems yet. Whereas on the right-hand side, you create the system where now, essentially from everything you've done, and I'm saying this to you as much as I'm saying this to myself, which is on the right-hand side, when we create that system, essentially, hey, this is where I put all my energy and my focus and my time, that by working on this, I know that I've already created a net to capture all the excess. I've already set myself up so that now, even if this starts to change, my focus only ever needs to be on one thing, and it'll take care of all the other things I need because I created a system to do just that. But most of the time, we don't create that system. So when we jump from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, we feel like we're losing something. We feel like we're missing something because there wasn't a system that allowed us to multiply ourselves.
Yeah, that is super dope. I was hanging out with this dude named Yaya. He's in sub 2 too. Over last weekend, and he high level dude. He's the man. Shout out to Yaya if he's watching this. But he left me with one really thing that hit me pretty hard. He's like, dude, don't think about all the other things you're trying to accomplish. Go build the beast. Build the beast takes 6 months. Go build the beast. Make as much money as possible. Automate it as much as possible. Make it a milestone to do that. And once you hit that milestone, go do the next thing. And he was like, just laser focus on building the beast. Once that beast is built, which is essentially like that first cup that you're talking about, then you go on to the other thing, which is the second cup.
Yeah, it's spot on. Like it really and we know this, and this is where the discipline kicks in. Because now the discipline is when you start to do this, and I just want to give everyone like that's listening, like the heads up on this is what's going to happen. You're going to start doing this. You're going to find the one thing, and then as you commit to it, other opportunities are going to pop up. Those other opportunities are going to pop up, and they're going to act as a distraction. They're going to try and pull you away, and they're going to be good opportunities. Here's the thing, though. We're going for great, right? So we've got to learn. Like we already know, the first level is get rid of the bad, right? We know sacrifice the bad to get the good. Second level on this is how do you let go of good to get to great? Right? You're going to be saying no to opportunities that are going to be good opportunities, right? But they're going to be distracting you. They're trying to take you down a different road, and you've already committed to walking a certain path. Walk that path. There is such a power that comes behind committing to what you said you were going to do. Something I learned actually, and I'll say this with everybody, this is super important to me. Again, like value. Value is promises that you deliver on. Right? Like when you're trying to figure out like what is valuable, value is making a promise and then delivering on that promise. So in order to become more valuable, you've got to deliver on more of your promises. Right? Like think about it. Like if Pace says he's going to do something, do you have any doubt in your mind that he's going to get it done?
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, yo, dude's going to get it done. Think about the other people in our world that we know are valuable. We believe that when they say it's going to get done, it gets done. They've developed the habit of finishing and following through on their promises. Same thing for us. We can build ourselves up that way, or we can just as easily cut ourselves down by saying we're going to do things, by committing too many opportunities and then following through on all of them. We actually start to water down our own belief in ourselves.
Right. So it's not even promising on the do's, it's promising on the don'ts.
Yep.
Like I don't do that. I would never do that. Right? Like I would promise to never do that. Whatever that is. If that's the other opportunity that's like barking at you to go take it, you're like, no, not doing it.
Yeah, you'd say no, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you say yes to it, but then you don't have enough, because there's only 24 hours in a day and you keep saying yes to all of them and then you don't follow through on them, that's where you start to water down. Like you start to say like to yourself, am I even capable of, you start to feel you're letting yourself down, you're letting other people down. However, when you say no to more things and then your yeses become more powerful. And the only reason you're saying no to things is simply you're putting it against the litmus test of, is this taking me closer to the goal? Is this getting me closer to the milestone?
Love that. So why don't we end off with figuring out what you would tell yourself. Let's bring it to after the parkour. After parkour and you're about to hop into real estate, what advice are you giving Marlon?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would tell Marlon to stay committed, have faith in yourself, have confidence and faith in yourself, and recognize that you're in the room already. So be in the room. Sometimes I think that we fight so hard to get into the room that when we get into the room, we don't recognize that, hey, we're actually there. So now do the thing that you're supposed to do that now that you're in the room. Right? So recognize that you're in the room and be in the room.
Yes, that is dope. I'm going to use that, bro.
Heck yeah, man.
Marlon, is there anything else you want to tell the people? It was a pleasure having you, bro.
Yeah, man. I would say for anybody that's interested in getting connected, come find me at Mindset Marlon on IG. And if you enjoy having these sort of conversations, if you feel like you're not getting these sort of conversations in your current life, in your current circles, trust me, I completely understand. These sort of conversations are the ones that changed my life. So we started something called the Morning Mindset Coffee, which is every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern. It's a group of entrepreneurs coming together on a Zoom call. Like I said, we're working on our mindset together as a group. We are collaborating, connecting, building out our network, building out our net worth. Like life changes when you start getting around different people. When you're in different campfires, life changes. So if you're interested in being a part of that conversation, not just being a fly on the wall, but actually being in the room, go to morningmindsetcoffee.com and go and register. It's $1 to come into that room, try it out for a week, see if you like it for a single dollar. So, Mike, I appreciate you for having me on this show, man. I look forward to connecting with you again. Hopefully you come out to AZ and we get to kick it.
Yeah, bro. You going to the summit?
Yes, sir.
I'm super hyped for that. It's going to be dope.
That's about to be a good time, bro.
Dude, I'm fired up. But yeah, as far as AZ, planting seeds, we'll see. I want to, bro, because I went out there for the mastermind. I loved it. Even though we're in the office probably 16 hours out of the day.
Bro, so yo, next time you're in town, man, yo, you got a place to stay, bro.
I love that, bro. One more thing. What was it again? The website? Because I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, man. Yo, it is morningmindsetcoffee.com. And yo, what I love is the reason we do it in the morning, because I've had people ask me, like, yo, 7 a.m., that's kind of early. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm in Arizona. That's 5 a.m. for me. And the reason we start so early is because when you get your mind right, you're able to leverage that going into your day. I used to hate going home after work, after school, getting like excited about something, getting a new concept, getting a new idea, but it's so late in the
You got to
evening.
go to
I
bed,
can't
right?
implement it.
Right.
Exactly. So it's like information can change the situation, but only with implementation. So we try and we don't try, we get it to you first thing in the morning. That way you can use it in the day.
Yeah, you can tell the listeners stop being a bitch and wake up early.
Yo, that's a fact, yo. Like if y'all are still sleeping in, yo, come on, I'm up every day
We
at
call
4
them, we
a.m.
call them pillow huggers.
Pillow huggers. That's funny
We're
as
not
hell.
hugging our pillow. We're not leaving slob in our pillow.
Yeah, yo, for real. Get yourself up. Like millionaires wake up at 5 a.m., billionaires wake up at 4.
Well, I'm gonna start waking up at 4.
There we go, bro.
What time do you get up?
4 a.m., son. 4 a.m. Except on Wednesdays and Fridays, I wake up at 3. Gotta get my morning prayer in, man.
Oh, we gotta dig on that really quick. I know you probably gotta go. But what is because I just started meditating like probably a month and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day after my workout, I'll go in the sauna, I'll meditate for like 10 minutes. I put on one of those little meditation music things on YouTube and I just tap in. But so you have a prayer, which is kind of like meditation.
Yep.
So do you mind breaking down what that looks like?
Yeah, for sure, man. So in the morning, and this is me personally, right? Like I'm not ever gonna push anything on anybody. However, for myself, I recognize that look, I've worked as hard as I could my whole life. I've always worked hard. And I realize my hard work by itself gets me, it moves the needle, but doesn't move the needle as far. And when things would happen to me, I was like, yo, like this is like a higher power helping me out right now. Like I didn't do this. And I call that higher power God, right? Like so I said this year, one of my goals this year is put God first. Right? Just straight up put God first. Plug back in. And for me, it was really important that I make that a conscious effort. And put God first doesn't mean like, yo, pray whenever, right? It's when you first wake up, like there's only one place first exists. It's first. It's in front of everything else. Like first comes first. First doesn't come second. First comes first. So in the morning times when I wake up, regardless of how I'm feeling, some days I'm fully energized. Some days I'm crazy tired because I didn't go to sleep on time. I just immediately start off with gratitude. Immediately. Thank you. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for giving me another 24 hours. Today is a bonus. I wasn't promised today. Today is a bonus. Thank you for all the things that you're going to put in my way. Thank you for the things that I might not yet understand that I know are ultimately working for me. Because I know that everything is for me, not against me. Right. And I will just start saying thank you. And like I'll start to read a little bit of scripture, do a little bit of prayer before jumping into my morning routine. And that's about 30 minutes every single day, except like I said, Wednesdays and Fridays, I actually do like a morning prayer group, which is, 3 o'clock in the morning for me because it's 5 a.m. on the East Coast. So I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So this morning, Wednesday, I was a part of that where we come together and we sit and we pray. Funny enough, I do it with actually, if you know Keston, I do it with Keston's parents.
Oh, love it.
And it's a big thing. Like it really, everyone should have their spirituality that they tap back into because we're more than just a physical being, like human being. So we're more than just a physical body, right? There's something bigger in us, and we all have a sense of it, but for some reason we get distracted. There's a lot of distractions in our lives, so it's just important that we come back to that each and every day, in my opinion.
I agree, bro. Like I said, I just started meditating. I've been sort of spiritual before that, but I just started tapping into meditation like a month and a half ago. And my whole entire life has changed. Completely. I'm a much happier person, doing more deals, having better relationships, everything is just better. And my structure is kind of along the lines of the same thing. What I'll do in my meditation is gratitude. That's what it starts off with, and
Mm-hmm.
then from there I'll go to forgiveness, and then from there I'll go to kind of plotting out what I want everything to look like.
Nice. And honestly, it's one of the best things that we can do, right? Like starting with like that energy of gratitude, it's such a powerful energy, right? Next to love, love is the strongest emotion we know that we have, and then gratitude is right there in a very close second. And I like what you said, forgiveness. You know, I don't think a lot of people have ever done the exercise of forgiving themselves. And some people might be even thinking, like, what do I have to forgive myself about? Just try it. Go stand in the mirror and just begin to forgive yourself. And I know I did that exercise. And the very first time I did it, I felt a weight lift off of me that I didn't even realize I was carrying. I had no clue it was even there. And I was like, whoa. And then you start to realize, like, when you hold on to things, you don't even know how long you've been holding on to it. You get accustomed to it. And then mapping out your day, man, I mean, it's crucial. Like the days I don't take time to map out my day, I feel lost
It's bananas. Your mind's everywhere. You're like, what?
everywhere. And that's the discipline. That's having that discipline. And like without discipline, look, you're gonna pay one of two prices. You're either gonna pay the price of discipline and you're gonna get things done right now, or you're gonna pay the price of regret. Either way, it's gonna cost you something. So I'd rather pay discipline and have a bigger reward on the back end.
Amen. Good stuff, brother.
Yo, Mike, I appreciate you, bro, big time.
Appreciate you too, brother. I can't wait to see you guys, everybody, and
In Vegas.
super excited for that. It's gonna be dope.
Dude, that's gonna be a good time, man.